Got something interesting here, a Panel PC, which is a touchscreen computer that would go on the front of industrial products for controlling it. And we'll take a look inside it. Guess we'll just power it up first to see what it's like. It's pretty much just a weak computer, about 500 megahertz I think. And it's booting some sort of Linux, which eventually goes up to a web browser that just says can't display since it needs to talk to things. So it's not very much interesting to see there. Let's take it apart. So there would be clamps here which go into these slots to hold it against a panel, pulling it against here. I think it would be water resistance once that's done up securely. And because of that pulling force, there were a lot of screws all the way around it, but I've taken most of those out since I already had a little look inside it. It takes a long time to open when you gotta undo all the screws. Okay, aluminium cover. So it's got this large block on the CPU. It's a whole system on a chip thing. So that was pressing against the back panel. So it's completely passive cooling. There was a custom board on there that's been removed. It connects to the USB, and there was power and that. So there's a separate power supply. So it says on the back panel that the input voltage range is 10 to 28 volts, but I found it wouldn't turn on unless you went above around 15. So the power comes in there, which is this, and then there's a power switch, which seems like a soft power switch that just goes to that. It's not actually switching the input. It seems like there's a ground connection in there that goes to nowhere, which is a bit weird. I'm not exactly sure where that stops. Maybe it's just cut off in there. It's very bizarre. Panel mounting Phoenix compatible connector. This is getting stripped down for recycling since there's no, it doesn't have any life anymore. There's not, unless you want to make some special embedded operating system or use some really cut down Linux type thing, or maybe run old versions of Windows, very old. There's not very much use for this. It's a 500 megahertz processor, and it'll be one of those quite weak ones like Atom style. It has a lot of serial ports because industrial equipment would connect by serial, RS485, RS232, 422. There's also dual network, which is interesting. So undo these serial ports. The D9 connectors for the serial ports. And there's an audio output as well. Not really sure what you'd use that for. Maybe some speaker thing that can play you a message when the machine wants some attention. So there's a whole audio header, but there's only one bit wired to it. Connectors are glued down. Extra serial ports. Oh look, they both come off the same cable, and it's really fine pitch ribbon. Interesting. That'd be tedious to solder. So there's a touch screen on this, which is a resistive touch, and that's the touch screen controller. And it looks like under there, the ribbon coming out of the screen attaches onto this wire, and that goes over here. I suppose that's USB, I'm not sure. Could be another serial port. there's also that thing. Oh, maybe that might be the backlight. So that's the power supply board. So that makes 12 volts and 5 volts. Looks like it has the provision to do more. Maybe it can make a -5 or -12. Also more bits and pieces up here. Looks like that's also 12 volt output since it's paralleled with that. 5 volts, so that other pin there, which is not used, must go to some other voltage, probably a negative voltage. Some systems that want negative voltage, usually for getting proper RS-232 levels. Get all the screws out on this. There are screws in the corners. Oh, I see. You can take this flange off by undoing a lot of screws around this edge. Very heavy duty. Okay, what if that is a way that you access the storage? You see there's a compact flash card there, although there isn't really any way of getting that out. But now we can access these extra screws. Aha, look at that. 512 megabyte compact flash, and there's 256 megabyte RAM, which is being glued in. Pretty small amount of RAM by today's standards. There's Realtek chips probably for the Ethernet. Maybe those are serial port chips there. So we've got this cable here, which will be the display data LVDS, and this one here I would say is the backlight, power, ground, enable and brightness. That's what I'd say that is. Fortunately it's also glued in. I don't know if we can unplug that without wrecking the cable. It's really well glued in. You don't want things to just fall out. The plug's getting destroyed. The bottom of the board's getting destroyed too by those. So it doesn't tell you what that header is. So I'm not sure what the interface is for the touch. Different header than this, but this might be a model of 4 serial ports, so maybe this is connecting to a serial port. This says 4 of those chips, which makes me think there's a serial port. Okay, so that's a touch controller board, resistive touch, and this is taped down, so that there must come off of the front of the display. It's also taped together in a way that's difficult to peel off nicely. Okay. So there's pins coming out of that side. So it uses an Atmel processor. Atmega Mega 8L. That's got something to do with special touchscreen things. Interesting. It's a bit annoying, I can't get these wires out easily. Okay, that one comes out easily. But this one here is now... oh yeah, it'd come out. It was half hanging out. So they didn't do such a good job of gluing that one. But yeah, that was well glued in. Okay, now can we take the panel out? A lot more screws to undo. Okay, so this should lift off. Okay, well there's the LCD panel, and the touch looks like it's part of this. That's front glass that is separate. Interesting, I thought the touch would be on the front of the LCD, but It's a separate bit. I suppose that's to do with the waterproofing. Okay, there's a frame. Oh, really? Not allowed to focus on anything, are we? So that's the panel part number. It's 800 by 600. It must have some integrated LED driver. Should we peel this part as well? Okay, it looks like the backlight's down here. Maybe it's 3 strips of LED. There's a bunch of test points there. So it says D 12 volts, PWM, LED enable. Let's have a look. Should be able to see an LED driver on the other side. There we go, that looks like the LED driver circuit there. The wires come into wires, and then it must go in an internal layer. But there seems to be its own isolated area. The display data goes into that chip there. And put this back together for some reason. I suppose I'll keep it. Not sure what to use it for. I have got another one of these panel PCs, also looking for something to do. So I was wondering, can we get this touch off this panel? Can we get this touch off? Let's see, presumably it's part of this. Ah, yes. Unusual, the sticky is actually staying on the bit that's stuck down. Well, most of it, there's some strips there. Oh no, some of it got stuck on there. I wonder if that was its part number label. Some other thing. Could have been. Got delaminated. It was. That was a part number label type thing. Was. It's not going to stick to anything now though. Now will this lift out? Or was that also stuck down? Yeah, it looks like that's also stuck down, but that's glass. So it's going to be not quite as easy to coax out. Okay, there you go. So there's a resistive touch panel. Not exactly sure how this one works. From what I gather, they usually send or measure the resistance between the X direction and the Y direction, and it's made of multiple layers that where you touch they press together, and one of the layers is resistive and the other layer is conductive, or varying in, has a higher resistance. So depending on where you touch it, the resistance will increase or decrease, and then the same thing happens in the other direction. So by taking an X and a Y reading and looking at the resistances, it can determine where you're touching on the screen. So that only allows for a single touch, because if you put 2 places, they end up with a resistance sort of halfway between those 2 places. But this has strange looking conductive bits on it. So it's running again, and you can see there how the resistive touch divides the resistance. This compact flash should have Windows 95 on it from another experiment on a different system. Let's see if we can boot it. I've attached a mouse and a keyboard. Guessing we won't be able to get the touch to go, but connect it anyway. Probably want to start normal mode. It's even got Internet Explorer, so that's quite exciting. Ah, my network card is not working properly. Neither is mouse. Okay. Found an unknown device. Motherboard resources. PCI bus. A standard floppy disk controller, which presumably you'd plug in on that header there. That looks floppy size. Now we gotta restart the computer. We got no mouse yet. So I don't have the Y cable for the PS2 ports. I've only plugged a keyboard into that, and I plugged in a serial mouse. Serial mouse that has a very dodgy cable which has been tied back. It's got this adapter on it, a mouse interface for IBM PS2 mouse ports. And it goes to this, which is quite a nice old mouse. The ball, of course. What have we got? A PCI bridge. This one needs some serious work. Power consumption is 11 watts. Parallel port got installed. Communications port. Another communications port. Another communications port, so this must be the 3 or 4 serial ports. PCI host bridge. Okay. A VGA adapter. Okay. This might be a problem. Okay, not a problem. It must have the cabs on the disk. More devices. Got an unknown device. Okay. Got a PCI card. Maybe that's the network controllers. Okay. Alright, there we go. PCI Ethernet controller. Maybe 2 of those. ISA bridge. A standard ISA bridge. Okay. IDE controller. That's fine. PCI multimedia audio device. That will be the sound. I'm guessing there's no drivers for that. Now we have to have a look. There might be drivers for Windows 95 for this motherboard. IDE. Okay, we'll reboot again. Sure loves rebooting. Okay. Multi-function device has some child devices using 32-bit drivers. What is that? So your computer has been halted to prevent corruption. Is that because the controller got installed? Alright then, that means it's finished. Seems to have gone into a standby state. And we'll just power cycle it. Yeah, we'll start normal. Maybe it's wrecked now and it won't work because of whatever it was complaining about with the storage controller. I don't know, we're back in. Do we get a mouse now? Not yet. Secondary. Single FIFO. I don't really want a secondary controller. Great. Yeah, so it might need reinstalling to actually function properly. Press any key to continue, nothing works. And we're in the BIOS, okay. Now we're going to do a scan disk now. Okay. Oh, look at that, we got into Windows. Let's go into control panel. What we want to do is add a mouse. Maybe we should have looked in device manager to see what we have here. Okay, so quite a lot of ruined devices. I wonder what's wrong with our serial mouse. It's not present or not working or doesn't have all the drivers installed. That's annoying. Maybe we can update it. We'll remove it and get it to reinstall it. First we should try it on one of the other ports. Let's have a look at what ports there are on this. Oh, yeah, we've got 4 COM ports. Oh, I wonder if it was the touchscreen that was coming up as a mouse. That's possible. We could try plugging the mouse into a different port. These ports might not have the correct voltages to power up a mouse. And there's quite a few things that it's grumpy about. And if we just remove those things, might as well get rid of that because that's stopping it from booting. Now we have to insert the disk to uninstall a network card. Interesting. What that is. I don't know. The computer's a bit grumpy, isn't it? Could just try rebooting it again. See if anything interesting happens. I also like to look up if there are drivers. I don't know what the point is persisting with hardware that's not going to work and we don't want it for anything. Just the interesting thing of trying to get something to work, even if we have no intention of actually using it. Display adapter. Oh, it's doing a hardware detection, which could crash it. Can't find. It's probably obsolete now. Yeah, so they've got Windows XP drivers, but that seems to be it. And then when you click the link, it doesn't go to anything. Okay, so I don't think we're getting any drivers for this, unfortunately. Let's see what this found. Found the COM ports again. Wow, it found all this stuff. A plug-and-play BIOS, a printer port, floppy drive, standard serial mouse. Oh, that's exciting. Maybe we get to use a mouse if it manages to install this stuff. Yeah, okay. Where's the installing part? Oh, were we supposed to click it? Yeah, I might have messed that up. Oh, look at that, the mouse moves. That's exciting. We can use the mouse now. Oh, what are we installing now? Mouse! We got mouse moving. Go install all this stuff again. Nah, let's just get it over with. There we go, we got Windows 95. And yeah, it's not in the right resolution, is it? I don't think we can change any of that stuff. Should be a 800 by 600. No, that won't let us do anything. Until you install a display adapter, we can make it mono. Okay, let's not do that. It's just going to apply next time we restart, isn't it? Yeah, let's wreck it by making it monochrome. It started up without any found new hardwares. Okay. Yeah, that stuff then will just sit there. Seems to have installed a PS2 mouse without actually having a mouse installed. Anyway, that's the computer. It's got Protel on it. It's pretty exciting. It's going to be pretty unusable at this low resolution. Very good. That's a panel PC. Small embedded computer. That block's getting warmish. Please wait while your computer shuts down. It might never actually shut down. Anyway, there you go. Panel PC.